Hello, everyone. My name is László Szlavó, directing REKK since few years, and let me welcome all the presenters here and let me welcome all the participants. I might give few minutes, maybe 2 minutes for the others to join because I see the number is still growing, so there are people just joining us now. So maybe I will keep the first few minutes just to tell you the housekeeping rules, and then we get to the subject. So the housekeeping rules are the following. So what we have today is that we have 3 very good presenters on the topic of the PICASSO platform, and then we have questions session after that. So what we will do is that between the presentation, we will collect the question, but we might collect it to the end of the 3 presentations. So that will be the time when you can ask your question. And actually, I would advise you to use the chat function. We'll have a look at it and we'll collect the questions there. So please use that function in the Teams. And then this 3 presentation will be followed by the panel discussion, and then we'll continue with the similar topic, and we'll continue with the participants, the panelists there, and then there will be time for questions as well. So please, if it's not necessary, don't use your microphone, because that can make quite a lot of noise here, because we have some 60 people here, maybe even a bit more. And then I think we already gave 2 minutes, and I see the number is quite settled. So let's start our workshop. So again, my name is László Szabó, and what we'll cover today is we'll look at how the PICASSO platform actually worked up till now. So we have a look at what are the lessons learned from the operation of the platform up till now. And we'll look forward as well, because there are many countries, including many countries in our region and including Hungary as well, who will soon join the platform. And then we are looking really for the insights from the experts who can share with these insights with us, that what were the experience gains in this process. And then we'll look forward as well at what would we expect in the coming years when Hungary, the region, and other countries in Europe will join the platform. And actually, I wouldn't like to cover too many issues here, because the presentations will cover most of the issues, most of the expectations, what we expect from the platform itself. But what we have to learn with this process is that this is actually a very nice instrument, which was actually realizing the benefits which we were expecting from this, at least what we have seen up till now. And then it's a very good question why there is still a delay in joining the platform by other countries. And of course, there are many technical reasons for them. And there are other reasons because, of course, any change in this power system, which is a connected system, there will be gainers and there will be losers in the system. So it's very good to know that what are the future trends and what are the expectations, what we can learn and what we can expect from the future development of the platform. And actually what is very interesting to see is that probably the positive effects what we have seen up till now will be enlarged by joining more and more participants, but this is already the part of the presenters share, so they will introduce you to some of these details. And then let me start with the first presentation, because they were very interesting, and unfortunately we were able to give only 15 minutes for the presenter, so let's use this time efficiently. So what I will do, I will already ask the first presenter, Dominik Schiff from Transnet BW from Germany, who is actually leading the team who is operating the system. So you have lots of insight into the system, lots of insight which was to share with the audience. So with this, I would like to give the floor to you, Dominik, and please go ahead with your presentation. And really thank you very much for accepting the invitation to present your insights.
Yeah, please. So, yeah, thank you for this introduction. Very, very good to be here and to present you let's call it the introduction slides to Picasso, which will then be later followed by some more insights. So, that's the overview of the Picasso region at the moment. So you see the Picasso project in the end will cover all countries of the regional group Continental Europe and the countries of the Nordics. So more or less the mainland of Europe, including now the Baltic TSOs, and then Scandinavia with Finland, Sweden, Norway, and a part of Energinet of Denmark. At the moment, the Picasso operational members are the following. So it's Germany, it's Denmark with its two different parts. It's the Netherlands and Belgium, Austria, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and also Bulgaria. And as you see, Hungary is here one of the countries that has, from just a geographical point of view, a very, very interesting position, because more or less it's the connection points from the Central Europe to the Balkan area, so to Southeast Europe. The platform itself is live since 2022 with CHEPS as first operational member, and then shortly afterwards joined by the German TSOs and Austria. In July 2022, Turner joined and then left the platforms the following year. In 2024, TenneT Netherlands and Energinet joined. In October, in November, SEPS and Elia. And this year, in February, the newest member of the Picasso group is Bulgaria. So the TSO is called ISO. And we will see then in the next following month the accessions of the Baltic TSOs to Picasso, of Finland, and also then followed by RTE. That's the overview of the first semester this year that the TSOs that will join. The Picasso platform itself is the part that is optimizing and enabling the cross-border exchange of AFR. As you know, AFR is a kind of a volatile product, so it's activated real time or very, very close to real time. That's why also the platform is operating very, very close to real time. So in fact, we optimize the underlying problem every 4 seconds. So if you talk about in market speech, we clear this Picasso region every 4 seconds. If you talk in system operational point of views, the platform is connected to the LFC operator, to the LFCs. So we give the LFC every 4 seconds a new correction signal or a new feedback. If you sum this up, then you end up in around 8 million clearings that the Picasso region does per year, with a stability of 99.999%. So we had very, very few outages in the last year, summing up to 20 minutes, something like this. The Picasso IT that we use is also used for the IGCC, so for the imbalanced netting cooperation, where all the European countries are already connected. One slide that is more for documentation, and you can have a look at this later on, but it shows in principle the high-level design. And from my point of view, this also covers parts of the implementation that are necessary to join Picasso. So on the one hand, we have here the central system. So that's the platform itself with its algorithm. So here's the AOF, so the activation optimization function, the CMOL merging. So these are all the central elements that we have. This central elements is operated by Transnet BW. But there are a lot of other things to be done by the local TSO. So the local TSO is responsible to collect all the bits. The local TSO is responsible to converge these bits and send them to the platform. Also, the cross-border capacity limits have to be done and calculated by the TSO. And the TSO then receives back a signal from the platform that he has to use then in its LFC controller. And regarding the local markets, also the local TSO is responsible for this. So he is responsible for the TSO BSP settlement, and he is responsible for the connection between its LFC and the BSPs. So more or less all what is in this block here has to be facilitated locally by the TSO, technically by the local NRA from market perspectives, and only this small part here, the platform and the algorithm itself, is done on a central level. So that's the overall overview, and now coming to the operational view. So some operational data. How does the platform work? Principle. We show here example data for December last year. So the platform collects all the demands. These are here shown in blue. And based on the demands, the platform calculates then correction values. So first thing that is done is the PICASSO algorithm looks for netting potential in the PICASSO region. So if there are in the PICASSO region demands that are in positive direction and other demands that are in negative direction, they are netted. Pre-netted before we go to the IGCC, who does more or less the same with the netting, but for the IGCC region. In PICASSO, we do a kind of pre-netting to have the netting potential within the PICASSO region fulfilled. And then afterwards, the algorithm looks at this common merit order list. So it looks where are the bits that are available and that are the most cheapest. So the lowest ranked bits, that is then selected, and the selected bits is then subtracted from the demand and is then called the corrected demand. So one example for, let's take Germany. So here in Germany, we have a very high demand here. And after the netting, our corrected demand is quite low compared to the original demand. Same is for all the other areas that we have. And then we come to the local controllers. So the corrected demand is given to the local controllers. The local controllers now activate based on this corrected demand. And then in purple, we see then the reactions of the BSP, so the reactions of the plant that are connected to the controller that then activate in the end the AFR. So that's how this whole concept works. So it's called control demand model. The AOF takes the demand and gets, based on the demand, a correction signal. Both added to another is both added. Gives the corrected demand. Corrected demand is given to the LFC controller, and the LFC controller in the end activates the bit. And this is the principle. It's a very stable principle, and it works quite good. So that's the operational perspective. Now coming to the economic surplus, so to the effects on the economics of the system. Based on the avoidance of AFR activating and based on the fact that we select the bits that are the cheapest, we generate an economic surplus. So you can also call it a welfare. So it's avoided costs that are created by the platform, and these avoided costs are separated by each TSO. If we look at the total number, even with this at the moment limited number of TSOs, we generate economic surplus rents of around 20 million euros per month. So summing up in 170 million of economic surplus that we did in 2024. You see also that this is kind of separated. So the smaller countries, compared to its size, have a relative higher impact of this economic surplus. That's due to the fact that they get access to a very long merit order list. But also, for example, here, Germany gets a higher economic surplus due to the fact that we can have a lot of AFR procured, but we get also access to cheaper bits in this perspective. So everyone more or less profits from the common merit order list. And you can also break this down. If you are familiar with this concepts of social welfare, you can break this down to rents. So there's a producer rent and a consumer rent and a congestion rent. And that's not very unintuitive. if you get access to a brighter merit order list, then it's perhaps not that positive for the producer. So we always see a negative producer rent and a positive consumer rent. So the overall prices have a positive impact on the PICASSO region. Then coming to, that was now the market perspective, now coming to the operational perspective. And this is very much linked to this, to access to a brighter or to a longer amount of reserves. So if you're a small country and there's an outage or there is something happening in your grid and your demand is getting very high, and you have a limited merit order list, you come to the end of your merit order and your demand is higher than the merit order list. So then you create a kind of imbalance that it could not be settled due to AFR volume, and then this is given to the frequency. So you have then a negative frequency impact. But with the PICASSO optimization and the access to the full merit order, you get here now more access. So there could be additional demand satisfied by the platform. And you can also see here that this is done quite often. So again, here nearly 1 year of data. And you see that this is in the gigawatt hours that is additionally supplied per month by the PICASSO region, and therefore also increases frequency stability and increases the quality of the frequency overall. So those are the effects that we see. So on the one hand, it's a kind of operational effect that we avoid AFR. On the next thing, it's a market issue that we gain an economic surplus, and here it's then also a system stability issue where we see that we supply additional demand and satisfy additional demand, and therefore increase the quality of the frequency. Coming then to the end, summing it up, today we only talk about PICASSO, but as you know, PICASSO is not the only platform that we operate. It's also, there's the MFR platform MARI. There's the IGCC that is in operation since several years, and also REKK, the platform for the replacement reserves. All of them are functioning, all of them are in operation, and in some, those platforms created in 2024 a welfare of around 1.3 billion euros. So the amount of social welfare that is generated by these platforms is quite huge. And that's why, from our point of view, they are a huge success story, because we show that we can establish a domestic European market. Yeah. So that's it from my point of view. Thanks for your attention, and questions will follow later once we have seen all the presentations.
To keep the time actually, and already one question arrived, and because you were very good at timing, so we still have 2 minutes from your presentation. If you can have a look at the question in the chat, maybe you can use these 2 minutes for answering that. So actually, do you see it, or shall I read it, Dominic?
Yeah, I read it. That's thanks for this question. So what does additional demand exactly mean in this context? So imagine a situation, the LFC area has a control band, so AFR procured of 200 megawatt. So if there is a demand in this area of 200 megawatt, it could be perfectly satisfied by the LFC controller, by the area itself. But if the demand, so the imbalance in this area is higher than this 200 megawatt, so for example 250 megawatt, there will be always a gap of 50 megawatt that could not be fulfilled, supplied by the local LFC controller, because there is not enough AFR capacity available to fulfill all of the demand. So there will be a gap of 50 megawatt. It's an imbalance, or if we speak about the control concept, it's an area control error that is there. And so it's an imbalance that could not be satisfied, and this has to be satisfied somehow, and it's satisfied by the frequency. So more or less, there's a frequency impact of this 50 megawatt has a frequency impact. If you now have access to a longer married order list by PICASSO, so you have now also, for example, access to bits from LFC area, from the neighboring LFC area, then this 50 megawatt can also be served by this other LFC area. So then you import this 50 megawatt, and all your demand is fulfilled. No influence on the frequency anymore visible.
Much, Dominic. Actually, there is another question, but because we use the time, let's spare it for the rest of the presentation, and it's a bit more probably complex question. So let's actually move to the second presentation. And we are very happy that INSA accepted our invitation, and Gilles Bertrand will present the next slide deck, actually. And then what he will focus on, actually, you can see it already on the screen there, that you will have a look at that what are the impacts of the recent changes and modifications in the PICASSO platform. And it's a very interesting insight as well, that what are the recent development in the platform as well. So with this, Gilles, I give the floor to you. Please go ahead with the presentation. And I just ask the participants, if you have any further question, please use the chat function, and then we collect these questions. Please, Gilles.
Yeah, thank you very much. So indeed, the presentation will be about the impact of the recent amendments and the new connection to the PICASSO platforms. To give a bit of view of, the presentation will be in three parts. So first, a bit of context on what has happened recently. The second part will be on what was the impact on the TSOs that were already connected to the platform. And the last part will be the first observation for the TSO that have recently connected to the platforms. So in terms of context, so what we have observed at the beginning of the PICASSO platform is that there was some price incidents. And so basically what we've done, and then after in cooperation with TSO, is try to look at what were the reason for this price incident, and if these price incidents were making sense. And from these analyses, we identified two measures that could improve the situation. The first one was the introduction of the FR elastic demand, meaning that the TSO can have part of shall have part of their demand as an elastic, but they can put a price on some part of their demand. And the second one was coming from the fact that there were, in what was observed before, sometimes there were short price incidents for which the price was set by a unit that was actually not activated by the TSO controller. And so this situation has been corrected in the second amendment by this new way of computing the cross-border marginal price. So these were the two main amendments that were taken at that time. Then another thing that have happened last year was the connection of the, as Dominic says, of the Danish, Dutch, Slovakian, and Belgian TSOs that have connected at the end of 2024. And basically what I will try to do in this presentation is to look at the impact of the amendments and the connection of these new TSOs. So in terms of implementation of the two amendments, basically they have taken place in August. So for the data, we'll be looking for data after August 2024 for the mitigation measures. So for the impact for the TSOs that were already connected. So first, a bit of disclaimer that obviously, as this is quite recent because the amendment were implemented in August and the new connection are from end 2024, we still have few data. So these results are preliminary. But what we have observed, basically, if you look in the table here for the TSO that were already connected before, so for Austria, Czechia, and Germany, and if you look at the last column, that's the percentage of optimization cycle, so of period of time at which there is a price incident. And so the last column is after August 2024, so after the amendments. And the column before is before the amendments in 2024, and the second column actually is in the last year. And so if you look at this, basically you see that after the amendments, the percentage of time with price incident is reduced quite a lot. Actually, it is reduced by 65%. And if you compare to the same period in 2020 year to try to cancel the seasonal effect, it still decreased by 60%. So that kind of show that this is that the improvement is quite significant and also not only due to seasonality effect. Then also what we were able to assess is a claim that we've made in our market integration report of 2023. Basically, what we had observed at that time was that when Czechia basically had extreme prices, it was mainly due to situation where they have 0 ATCs. And what we had seen, and then we have tried to look at the reason for these 0 ATCs, and what we have observed in 2023 is that part of the reason was coming from the fact that only part of their borders were in PICASSO, because only their border with Germany and with Austria were in the platform, while the border with Slovakia and Poland were not in the platform. And so what we have computed in the table here basically is in the column where its current border is the percentage of time where they have 0 ATC with the border that they had in 2023, and the second column if it's the percentage of time with 0 ATC if all their borders will be there. And you see that this percentage of time where they have few ATC would decrease a lot if all the Czech borders would be in the PICASSO platform. And so basically how to understand precisely the number is that for the first line you have 20. Basically what was saying is that in 2023 with the border they have 20% of the time they have less than 100 megawatt available in the export direction, while if you look at the second column, after all their borders will be there, this number would drop to 7%. And so you can see that this decrease would be quite significant, and so that the connection of their other neighboring TSO would improve quite a lot their situation in case of few ATCs available. Then we've basically been able to assess that after the connection of Slovakia. Is it really true that the connection of the Slovakian TSO would improve quite a lot the situation for the Czech TSO? And what we find is that it's actually the case, because if we look at the percentage of price incident, so after the amendment but before the connection of the Slovakian TSO, that was in October. And so that's the second column. And if we compare that to the percentage of price incident after the connection of the Slovakian TSO, basically the amount of price incident have been divided by 3. So the effect of the connection of the Slovakian TSO was quite positive on the result for the Czech TSO, and that's a general message that obviously the more TSO will connect to the platform, the better the situation will improve, and that's also linked to what Dominic says, because you have access to basically a wider merit order, basically. And you have more chance to have cross-channel capacity with one of your neighbor, because basically you have more of your neighbors that would be present in the platform. So that was for the analysis for the TSO that were already connected to the platform, and we've also looked at preliminary data for a TSO that have just connected, so Denmark, Netherlands, Slovakia, and Belgium. And so what we've observed in terms of price incident is that for Denmark, Netherlands, and Belgium, there is almost no price incident. And for Slovakia, there were some price incident, but it's still quite lower than what have been observed before the amendments for country like Czechia. So there are some price incident, but it's still quite significantly less compared to what was the case before. Then basically we've still looked at these cases where Slovakia have price incident, and we've seen again that the situation was the same as initially for Czechia, that the situation in which they had price incident was mainly due to the cases where they had few ATCs available. And so we have computed again what was the current case where they have only the Czechian borders, and there you can see that they can export 200 megawatt or less 22% of the time, while if all their borders would be in the platform, that number would go to basically to 1%. And so again, you see that this situation of isolation would be decreased quite a lot if all their neighboring TSO would join the platform. And obviously this increase of ATC available will increase competition, and so also and it would have a beneficial effect on competition and cost. Then I've also looked for the Netherlands at some preliminary result, and there I had a bit more available data that I took directly from the website from the Dutch TSO. And so two numbers that I've looked at were the average activated volume, so in the positive and negative direction. And so what you can see is that after the connection to PICASSO, the amount of the volume activated in the Netherlands have increased on average, and that's quite that's happening basically because their bids are relatively cheap compared to the bids of other TSO, so they tend to be activating more. So generally, they have more activation in the Netherlands, and so from there you could be thinking, okay, they activate more, so on average the price will increase, and actually that's not the case. If you look at the two last row of the table, you see that on average the cost paid by the TSO for the activation decrease. So in the positive direction, it went from 151 euro on average paid to 145, and in the downward direction, there you have to see that it's a payment from the BSP to the TSO. It has increased from 33 to 57. So what you can observe is that both in positive and negative direction, the cost to balance the system for the touch TSO have increased, even though on average there were more activation. And so if you want to understand this situation a bit intuitively, it's coming from the fact that usually the activation have increased in low range of prices, basically because they have the cheapest bid. So their price slightly increase in case where the price are relatively low. So that obviously has that somehow increase their price, but at the same time they've benefited much more from situation where if they would be isolated, they would activate all their merit orders, and for this situation they have managed to benefit from the access to the merit order from Germany mainly. And so that effect was quite stronger from the fact that was quite stronger compared to the one of the increase of the volume of activation. And so the conclusion there is that on average the cost have decreased for the Dutch TSO, and I've done the same for Belgium. I also managed to get some data from the Belgian TSO website. And so here on the graph, what you have, the orange line is the line that separates before and after the connection to PICASSO. And what I show here is the price for when the system imbalance in Belgium is long, so there is too much energy. And so basically these prices here represent the amount that is paid by BSP to TSO. So basically the lower the price is there, the higher cost for the TSO. And you can see that after the connection to the platform, the price is higher, meaning that on average BSP pays more to the TSO for downward activation. And basically what this is coming from is basically from the fact that before the connection to the platform, the Belgian TSO was exhausting quite a lot its merit order, and so activating bids at minus 700 euro per megawatt hour. But after the connection of the platform, it can access the Dutch and German merit order that are longer in AFR. And so you have much less of these cases of negative prices. And if you would look in terms of average, basically the weighted average AFR price in case the system imbalance is long in Belgium. So again, it's the price that is received by the TSO. It went from minus 134 euro per megawatt hour to 26 euro per megawatt hour, meaning that before the connection, the Belgian TSO on average pays 134 euro per megawatt hour to BSPs when it activates downward. And after the connection, it received 26 euro per megawatt hour. So you can see that this is a significant reduction of cost for the Belgian TSO after the connection to the PICASSO platform. So in terms of conclusion, what we have observed from our analysis is that the implementation of the mitigation measures have decreased the amount of price incidents for TSO that were already in the platform. The connection of other TSOs have also helped the one that were already in the platform. And the final one is that usually the high price tend to take place in the country that a few of their borders that are in PICASSO, and some more that are in the extremity of the PICASSO region that is active. So thank you. That's all for my presentation.
Thank you very much, Gia, for the very insightful presentation. I liked it very much, and then actually you were showing one of the most important indicators of the platform, this pricing. We'll come back to this issue later on with the platform. Meanwhile, there were lots of questions, I think, and then Dominic was already answering many of these. There is only one direct question, very simple one to you, and then if you answer it, then we move to the next presentation. And that question, that what is your data source for the ATC data? Is it the ENSOE platform or use something else for that?
For the ATC, it's from JAO data.
JAO, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Please stay with us for the questions because I'm pretty sure that there will be more, and I see already one or two which were not really handled. So we'll have a very nice conversation already before the panel discussion. So let's now go to the third presentation. Actually, my colleague Adrian Schelley will present the results of forward-looking assessment, actually. What Adrian will do actually is that we are looking a bit ahead now. So we are not looking at what are the effects and what are the impacts of the platform so far. However, we'll cover some of these issues. But what is really interesting in this presentation is that we'll look forward and then we'll see that what might happen. I mean, it's always a forward-looking exercise. What might happen to the countries, what might happen to the welfare, and what might happen with these countries planning to join the platform soon. And what you have to know about Adrian is that she worked for a while at the TSO, at the Hungarian TSO. Then she joined us at REKK, and then she's really mainly dealing with this power market modeling and with the main focus on this balancing platform and operation of this platform. With this, I would like to give the floor to you, Adrian, so please go ahead with the presentation.
Thank you and warm welcome to everyone. In my very brief presentation, I would like to show you two different things. First, a few graphs about the experience of the operation of the platform, summarizing our analysis of the balancing energy prices. And then I would like to turn to the to summarize the REKK modeling results about the European balancing energy markets. So if we take a look at an aggregated level to the differences between the balancing energy and the wholesale market prices, you can see here in the columns these differences. With the dark columns indicate the periods in the platform, and the light columns indicate the periods outside the platform. And we show and we see the 4 countries which were the first who joined this platform. And of course, the data availability and the energy crisis makes it very difficult to compare the before and after period in these countries. But overall, maybe mainly in the case of the Austrian market, we can see an overall price convergence to the day ahead or the wholesale market prices. And the Italian example is also interesting, where you can see that the balancing energy prices were the most close to the day-ahead market prices when they were in the platform. And since they suspended their membership, the prices moved, the balancing energy prices moved away from the day-ahead market prices. If we take a more closer look on the Austrian and Italian market, we can see that on average, the prices on the platform are more favorable, which means that they are more closer to the day-ahead market prices. But on the other side, we can see more frequent and larger price spikes in these markets. Mainly in the Austrian market, if we compare the first period before the energy crisis and the last period after joining the platform and when the crisis ended, we can see this big difference between the prices. And the shift to marginal pricing probably plays a significant role in this development of the price spikes, which we can see in the example of the Netherlands as well, and also the scarce cross-border capacities are very important factors in causing these price spikes. Here I have two examples about the newly joined markets. The first one is Netherlands, which was already shown by Gilles, so I wouldn't go into the detail here, but you can see the big difference after joining the platform, after the shaded area. The prices are much closer to the wholesale prices. And what is interesting here that even the price spikes, the frequency of price spikes decreased after the entry, which is probably because Netherlands already used marginal pricing before the entry to the platform. And if we see the situation in Slovakia, we can see similar developments in prices. So we can see this convergence between the balancing energy prices and the day-ahead market prices. And if we zoom a bit on the prices during the platform, at the bottom of the graph, we can see a few surprising relationships between the balancing energy and day-ahead market pricing. For example, in the first case, the negative balancing energy price is higher than the day-ahead market price, and we have another example where the positive balancing energy price is lower than the day-ahead market price. This can seem to be a strange situation based on the past data, but in the platform we can have a situation like this. And now I would like to turn to the modeling results. And here in the modeling, we used two models of REKK, two in-house models. The European power market model, which is a unit commitment and economic dispatch model, and it simultaneously optimizes the wholesale electricity and reserve markets. And it gives us as an output the wholesale electricity prices, the available reserve capacities, and the cross-border capacities, which remains after the intraday trading to balancing energy exchange. And then our second model, this European balancing energy market model, uses these outputs as inputs and optimizes the integrated European balancing energy markets. It simulates the operation of the PICASSO platforms. So it is based on a common merit order list. It uses the marginal pricing in all scenario, and the netting is included in an implicit manner, and it's part of the optimization. And as an output, we get the positive and negative balancing energy prices, and of course, based on them, the cost of balancing energy, and we can calculate the quantity of imbalanced netting and the balancing energy exchange as well. Here we modeled a lot of scenarios, but in a very short time, I can only show a few of them. We choose the REKK reference scenario and the results for 2026 because by that time, probably all countries in the region will join to the platform. And in the different scenarios, we assume that first Bulgaria, Greece, Croatia, Poland, and Slovenia enters the platform. And sorry for that, Bulgaria is out in our assumptions. But first they go to the platform, and then in a second step, additional to these countries, we include also Hungary and Romania, and we model the effect of the new countries joining. An important assumption is that in these runs, which I will show you here, the bidding behavior of the BSPs doesn't change with the entry to the platform. So here we only measure the effect of the platform itself, the common merit order, and the balancing energy exchange. And first, I would like to show you the effect on prices. Here you can see the example of Hungary, which is a quite extreme example with the fact data on the left, the fact data from the second week of 2024. And here we can see that there is a significant premium above the day-ahead market prices in the case of the positive balancing energy prices. And we can also see that the dumb or negative balancing energy prices are much lower than the dumb prices. And in contrary, if we look at the graph at the right-hand side, we can see a dramatic change. We can see the prices to get much closer to the day-ahead market prices, and we can even see some spreads with opposite signs to those observed in the past. And the main drivers behind this phenomenon is, of course, the competitive bidding behavior, and additional to that, the lower cost due to the common merit order and the balancing energy exchange. And additionally, of course, the decreased demand due to the imbalance netting can also have a role in this price convergence. In these maps, you can see the effect of the new countries joining to the platform. Here, the balancing energy cost changes on the graph in million euros per year for 2026. And on the left-hand side, you can see the total balancing energy cost change in case if Bulgaria, Greece, Croatia, Poland, and Slovenia joins the platform. And we can see that joining the platform is expected to significantly reduce the cost of balancing energy for these new joining countries. And there are only a very small increase in the other countries on the platform. And on the right-hand side, you can see the balancing energy cost decrease. In that situation, if Hungary and Romania also joins the platform, in that case, of course, Hungary and Romania faces a significant balancing energy cost decrease as well. And what is interesting that the joining of these two countries is also visible in the region. So the effect is visible in the region because, for example, in Bulgaria and Greece, we can see higher balancing cost decrease. So as Dominic also mentioned, Hungary and Romania has a central role in this, in the case of these new joining countries. Another interesting result, I think, is the difference between the domestic activation in the moderate countries and in the real balancing need in these countries after the imbalance netting. On this region, in the right side, you can see the actual activation in the concerning countries, while in the right-hand side, the dark area shows the remaining imbalances after netting, and the light area shows the quantity of imbalance netting in each country. And overall, we can see that this can be very different. So the activated quantity and the domestic balancing energy need. And what is also interesting that in this region, the countries typically overall export balancing energy to the other part of the platform. And we can zoom into this result. So here you can see the quantity of the export and import. So the changes in the activation of domestic balancing service providers due to the platform. And again, you can see that the new accession countries tend to export balancing energy. If we see Hungary and Romania export mainly negative balancing energy, while Bulgaria exports on an aggregate level rather positive balancing energy, and Greece and Slovenia are the countries which are overall the importers of the balancing energy in this region. And if we would like to focus on Hungary for a last sentence, we saw that the entrance to the platform would significantly decrease the balancing energy cost in the country. So it probably will be a very good situation for from the consumer side. But of course, the producer rents, as Dominic also mentioned, may significantly decrease. But on the other hand, there are significant export possibilities for the Hungarian balancing service providers, mainly in the negative direction. And thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Adrian, for the presentation. And I see the audience is very active. So thank you very much for the questions. So we have probably lots of time for them. And I would say that we have at least 3 or 4 of them, which we'll try to answer now. And I see that some questions arrived to Adrian, but I will rather start with some previous questions, and then we'll come to this issue. Meanwhile, Adrian can have a look at these questions as well. So maybe the first question, I already saw that Dominic tried to answer this question, but I think it's a very interesting one, which is concerning the IGCC netting mechanism, and then what is the welfare impact of those, whether it would be included in the PICASSO results which we have seen. And I saw Dominic already started to answer this. But maybe if you can just summarize that, what do you think about it for the audience? That is it included, is it not, or what is the situation in this regard? Can we suppose that there is an additional welfare which was not calculated and shown in your presentation, or it's not the case? So Dominic, maybe the first question is to you, and then I will come to Gilles with some additional 1 or 2 questions. Please. Or if Dominic is, I don't know if, because he mentioned that he might have to leave a bit. I don't know, Gilles, if you have any thing to add to this question or anything which you would like to highlight here. So the IGCC platform and its welfare effect. Because I see that Dominic.
Yeah, I think the answer of Dominic was in the direction that the settlement in the 2 platforms are somehow different, the way it's settled. So you cannot just simply move the welfare from one to another. So I think that was in this direction, but there might be indeed computation that can be made, but it's not as straightforward as that.
Thank you. And maybe because it was another interesting question concerning Bulgaria, in an isolated mode, if you join the platform, actually what do you do? I suppose in this case he's only an observer, so he's maybe having a platform aligning the infrastructure and the IT, but what else they could do in Bulgaria?
I mean, there is still the option that they've been at least actually used by some TSO, which is the option of ATC sharing, and that is what has been put in place by, I mean, France has been, RT has been implemented in France, and that, for instance, has allowed to, even though France is not connected to the MARI platform, it has allowed exchanges between Spain and, for instance, Germany that are both connected to the platform. So this option is, I mean, this option of ATC sharing is supported by the platform generally. So there is a possibility also that if all TSOs that are between the Bulgaria and the next country that would be there, which would be Slovakia, if all the country behind would allow ATC sharing, then they could have direct exchange, but it's not the case currently. So in that case, they just have a merit order and their demand, and they basically activate with their demand that they have at the moment.
Thank you very much.
With the bits they have available. Yeah.
Thank you. And then there was one question by Gabor Sorini, which I might try to translate a bit because I was not directly capturing what Gabor wanted to ask, but Gabor, please correct me in the text if I misinterpret your question, because actually talking with some Hungarian partners just in 1 week ago, a similar question was raised, and then I'm very curious about your opinion, and it's open to Gilles and Adrian as well, that the question was the following, that once you have the platform in place, and then you might see that for some of the BSPs, you might see decreasing welfare, I mean, this decreasing profit on their side. Whether is it possible to see some impact on the capacity part, on the, I mean, on the other side of the let's say the coin, that if they are participating, these companies on both on the balancing, on the energy part and on the capacity part, how do you see this situation? Would it be possible that they might be able to increase their income on the other platform, or it's not possible because in that sense the markets are not connected? I don't know if that was the question, Gabor. If not, please use the chat and then we might correct this question. But that was actually an actual question from the Hungarian participant. If you have ever looked at this capacity payments as well, whether you see some connection between joining the balancing platform and then maybe losing some of the profitability and then maybe compensate it in the other. Did you look at these markets?
We have not looked at this market on our side, but we should also be aware that there is also initiative there to couple balancing capacity markets. So
Yeah.
then okay. If you try to then put a premium in balancing capacity market, then it will also disappear when these are coupled. So
yeah. So in a sense, you would increase the competition there, where it would be quite difficult to do things in a sense. So please, Gabor, if you have additional questions, just go for it. And I just see that Dominic came back. I don't know if you have Gilles' answer to that IGCC question, or if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, so more or less the IGCC settlement is based on the avoided AFR activation costs, which are in principle the cross-border marginal prices if you apply this. So that's the normal case. And as we switched also the settlement period for the IGCC, so not the settlement period itself, but the data we use to 4-second values, there should be, I agree, it's not a direct transformation one-to-one, but it's, let's say it almost. But it's a good question. It's would be very interesting to look into it, and we can definitely look into this. What's this shift in terms of the economic surplus?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dominic. And then let's turn maybe to these price questions, because at the end we have at least 3 of them. Let me just read some of them, and probably mainly Adrian who will try to give an answer to that. Because the first question, but why should costs in Iberia and France increase in this simulation? And maybe the second question, that who do you think the price increase in France if Hungary and Romania join the platform? So let's try to go for these 2 now.
Yeah, thank you for this question. And the situation is somehow similar to the situation on the day-ahead market. So there is a price convergence here when more expensive countries go to the integrated market, then the price in these countries would go down. And on the other hand, in the cheaper countries, the prices may increase a bit. But we saw that the decrease in these newly joined countries is more significant than the increase in the others. But yeah, it can happen.
I don't know if Gilles or Dominic, do you have any insight to this as well, or do you agree what the results, or
as I have no real access to the simulations, it's kind of hard to answer it. Perhaps from a general point of view, I would interpret price changes of 1 digit or 1.5 point something not as that dramatic, given the wide area of what was simulated there.
Okay. Yeah. I think this around €1 price is an error which can be explained by the simulation as well. Jill, any further addition to this?
Yeah, maybe on what also I showed in the presentation for the Netherlands, that it's not always because you have an increase in the activation that you get an increase on price, because somehow the platforms are also acting as an insurance, because sometimes even though you have the cheapest bid, they will be activated more often. That's true. That's what we have observed from the Netherlands. But still, the platform are still the cost increase is, at least what we observe now for Netherlands, they are more than mitigated by the fact that in some situations they would have extreme prices because they activate all their bids, and there they can rely on the bids from the others.
Thank you. And maybe one more question to Adrian, because there was an additional one on the modeling. If this price cap, which were there before, whether we were taking into account in modeling, or there were not.
Yes, so in this model runs, what I showed here, we didn't take into consideration these price caps, because here we assume that in all countries there are competitive bids in the market to be comparable. So we used a moderated premium only compared to the wholesale prices, but we have other model runs where we also included this higher premium in Hungary, and I showed it last week to the Hungarian stakeholders, and I can share these results as well if it's interesting. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Adrian. And maybe let's go for the last question, which came as well, that Bulgaria applied pay as bid until now, so that we can observe what happens with prices alone as a result of changing to pay as cleared, which is the platform is applying. And if you remember the presentation, it was quite visible that, of course, if you go for this pay as clear price mechanism, that might have an impact on this price as well. But from the Netherlands example, what we have learned as well is that in those countries who already apply this principle or this methodology, then they saw these spikes disappearing or having less frequency in their case. So my question would be compared to what was asked here, but please try to answer this as well. That who do you see that with the increasing size of a platform, would we see that even these spikes will be less frequent than what we have observed before, or you would not expect such a situation occurring in the future? I don't know if Dominic or Gilles, Dominic, please.
Yeah, so from my point of view, it's hard to avoid these price spikes, as you see it also. So let's take another example. The frequency. So you always see frequency spikes in the morning. So, and where do they come from? From demands that are more or less similar in different LFC areas at a certain time. So I think this effect will still be there. And if this is an extreme day, then from my point of view, this will also result in those short spikes. So from my point of view, all those spike discussions, they will be more smoothened with a bigger area, but there's no guarantee that this vanishes. But in principle, and that's what also Gilles said, described, that's what you, Adrian, showed in your simulation perspective, it's obvious. The longer you get the CMOL and the more borders you have, the more access you have. And the more access to have, if all of those systems that we have work in the correct way, then the prices should go to a level, not necessarily decrease, but go to a level that is comparable to the other markets. So always a little bit above, day ahead, because there is a kind of threshold in between for the flexibility, but at least at this range.
Thank you.
That's why, from my point of view, the results that you presented, Adrian, are supporting this.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dominic. Gilles, anything to add to this field?
No, I mean, I agree with the answer that Dominic gave, and also that's what that's partially what I described in the presentation, on the fact that we can see. I mean, what was the initial question on the fact that we can see what's the difference between the bidding in pay as bid and pay as cleared. I mean, that's very theoretical, because that would assume that was the only change that was performed by the Bulgarian TSO when they connected, and I assume that their product was not fully similar except for that properties before connecting. So then this effect will be mixed with other effects as well.
Yeah, I fully agree that it's very difficult to distillate actually. And then I think, because there is another question arrived, but I would propose that let's go to the panel discussion, and let's invite the two additional speakers to the panel. So I would like to invite Mario Turcik and Szabolcs Koppányi to switch on the camera and join our panel discussion, if you can. And just very briefly, so Mario Turcik works for SEPS for more than 13 or 14 years now, but please correct me if I'm wrong. And you are heading the unit with the European market development, and actually this unit is behind with all these integration issues. So whenever you had to work with some European integration issues like ICP or the 4MC integration, you were there, and you are there with the PICASSO platform as well. And then it will be a very interesting insight what you can provide, at least for this audience, because you have at least few months of experience of how the PICASSO was impacting you. And we have Szabolcs Koppányi from the Hungarian regulator, heading the international unit at the regulator. So we are very happy that both of you accepted the invitation, and Gilles will stay probably with us. And I don't know if Dominic will manage to come back, because there is some issue with his timing as well.
Sorry for this. I have several family issues at the moment, so I would rather skip this discussion.
Okay.
I hope I can join at the end again, but sorry for this.
Thank you very much for giving the presentation and answering this question. But let's start with the panel discussion, and let's give the floor maybe for the two new guests, because probably you had a look at the presentation, and maybe the first question would be that how would you actually evaluate the platform operation? And let's ask with Mario, because I think you are a very interesting partner here, because you have really a hands-on experience from the last few months. So please give a reflection what you have seen in the presentation, and please at the same time give us some insight at how did you feel about the few first months of experience from your side. So Mario, please.
Thank you very much, Laszlo. Good afternoon to everybody. I can connect what is happening now in Slovakia very clearly. What was shown on the slides from Gilles, also from Dominic, and also from Adrian. What we can see clearly there that and what we are doing here is we are judging something like in the middle, I would say, something which is still not developed, like in terms of full integration when we are speaking here about PICASSO. So what we see is some kind of transitional period, and we see very significant impacts of extension of PICASSO platform on the liquidity, on the price developments there, on the performance of itself. And I would say, and also this is very connected to available transmission capacities. What was here commented very well is impact of connection of Slovakia, for example, on Czech Republic. I think this is very, very interesting to see. you can clearly digest from the map which was presented that Slovakia now is connected only via one border to Czech Republic, and we are at the end of this kind of chain. This has several implications on the performance of PICASSO in Slovakia. First of all, availability of transmission capacity. One may say that it's very intuitive that the good is when it's sufficient available capacities in terms of price development or price peaks. This is kind of like logical conclusion. You would like to see always sufficient cross-border capacities. That's true, but only partially. But because what we are doing is also we are doing kind of classification of price peaks, let me say. So several price peaks that happened since we connected, they were caused by kind of very regular and logical things like outage of big generator, which must be balanced immediately through AFRR positive. So demand increased, indeed prices dropped up. It's kind of a very logical thing. It was similar with the error in forecast of renewable production. Also, positive AFRR activation means increased demand and price drop up. But there is also kind of interesting events when you are in uncongested area with, for example, Czech Republic. And in such a situation, you have, in case you have sufficient cross-border capacities, your price can drop up. Not because you have expensive bids in your local merit order list, but because you are in uncongested area with someone who has higher demand or high demand, and you are kind of in one pool. So also these things are very interesting to observe, that also sufficient cross-border capacities may time to time translate in the increased price in your area, because you are in uncongested area with someone who has high demand and lack of resources. This is just to have somehow connect discussion about capacities. It's not always like that, but there are such situations as well. But generally, we do expect and we do hope also that Hungary will join soon, because for us it means two borders, because not only with Hungary, but also Hungary will be connected with Austria. So it means it's two borders or two paths towards the European pool. And indeed, we closely checking the Polish accession roadmap. There are also plans to join PICASSO this year, not next year as it was foreseen previously. So there might be increased liquidity for us already in upcoming months, or at least this year, when Poland would join, hopefully this year already. So yeah, and the practical experience, indeed. It all depends from which environment you are connecting to PICASSO. I mean, let's be open. We are not starting from the same point. So there are local rules, different local rules, historically different development, different resources available in LFC area, and so on. So everyone has a slightly different starting point and slightly different local conditions. And all this translates into performance of your area connected to PICASSO, at least for the first months, until everything is somehow stabilized. And we can see this also in our price development. After connection to PICASSO, after the regulation, you see high drop up in terms of regulation power, but very strong downward trend in the last 3 months. So it was like a big jump, and now slightly decreasing to the levels that could be already somehow comparable with the previous environment, which was, on the other hand, absolutely different environment. It was environment with regulated caps, which were connected to the prices of day-ahead market. It was kind of floating cap. It was different pricing approach, which was pay as bid not a marginal pricing. But I would also here emphasize we did a decision, kind of strategic business decision, that we don't want to roll out all these changes in one moment directly with connection with PICASSO. So we did this 2 stages approach where we roll out all this something like this connected mode setting already in July 1st, 2024. We keep at least 6 months or 5 months in terms of PICASSO to run this new environment in kind of island mode, just to let the system stabilize in terms of IT business processes. Also, providers shall learn a bit more what's going on. And we connected directly to PICASSO on the 5th of November, but it was only connection because everything else was rolled out into the system already in 1st July. And this I would really use as a recommendation for everybody. If you're going to connect, it was very good idea to do this in 2 steps. But also we got a positive feedback from providers because you are touching their terminals, you are changing a lot of things, and we have something like 5 months to stabilize this, or from the very local level to the central national level. I would say everything should be from IT and business process stabilized at least as much as you can before you doing this step that you're opening gates and connecting to the PICASSO platform. So we did this decision, and I can say personally we would do it the same because it has very positive effect and decreasing significantly errors and misunderstandings which could be in such a big transition kind of usual part of the business. Yeah, so this is for the beginning. If there are some concrete questions, indeed, I can react. Laszlo, I think you have mic off.
Sorry. Thank you very much for the insight. Sorry. This is very interesting. If we have time at the end, we might come back with some very specific issues, because I think all what you say is quite important for the newcomers, including Hungary, of course. I don't know if you have very direct communication with Hungarian TS or not yet, but probably it would be very useful to gain this experience. And let me turn to Szabolcs, and let me just ask Szabolcs to make an introduction. What is the situation now in Hungary? If you have a look at the questions, there is already one question, but it's rather for Mavir than for the regulator, which is asking that is Mavir expected to join PICASSO in 2026 in accordance with the lately delayed entrance date? So let's start with this, and maybe you can give a reaction as well to the presentations as well. How do you see all these issues with the platform so far? How would you assess it? Please.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, it's quite difficult at that stage to look at it from still from the outside. If I would address your first question concerning the accession of Mavir, this is of course it's not it's up to the Mavir, but we expect them, as it was stated, to access in the first quarter of 2026. And I think if I may go back to the assessment to the platform, from that point of view, it's interesting. I would approach it from 3 different directions. So that if I consider the publicly available data, there's everything is in a boiling point, as the previous presenters also mentioned, there are many ongoing procedures. What we have is only the ENSOE's 2024 balancing report is available at the moment as a publicly available data, and this is from 2023, and when only 3 member states participated, so there's not much to deduct from that. But if we look at the last year's methodology amendments in balancing prices and the AFR implementation framework, it seems that what Gilles also mentioned, that it managed to decrease the frequency of price incidents, which is very good news, and for both the already participating and the newly accessing TSOs as well. What I see is that the latest data provided by ACER on the new accessions shows that in newly accessing countries, the level of prices have decreased in most places, which is, I think, a very good indicator. However, there are in some cases also price incidents have started to occur, and that's a question which needs to be addressed in the future. That's all for the moment.
Thank you very much, Szabolcs. And maybe just to give back the floor to Gilles as well, that what we agreed as well, that we have a question on the feedbacks of the participants who are already in the pool. And probably, Gilles, you participate on many of these meetings. So who would you say that what is the main feedback of the already partners in the platform so far? What they are pushing for? Do they want to see really large enlargement of the platform, and they are pushing the participants, the others to join in, or what is the main feedback? What you would summarize as the main result of the platform so far?
Yeah, I would say in terms of the prices, we had some discussion before the amendments, and there were some complaints on the prices, and we have, with TSO, we have evaluated the situation, find these amendments, and I would say that after the amendments, the reaction were quite more positive from what we get from Austria and from Germany. They were quite also happy by the improvement, that's the feedback that we get from them. And from the newly connected, I've been discussing more with Dutch and Belgian, and they were also relatively positive. And obviously we also get this feedback when, every time that somebody has joined, they say, okay, the other should join also, because it's clear that it's bring benefits to everybody, the more neighbors you get. So this is indeed a direction that is quite pushed. But I would say that for the one that with which I've discussed recently and that I've recently connected, the feedback was quite positive in the functioning of the platform. Maybe if I can come back to something that Mario said in his previous statement on this situation where there is not much demand, for instance, in Slovakia, and because of a higher demand in Czechia, then there is a high price in Slovakia. Actually, in the previous amendment that we've taken, the elastic demand was precisely introduced in order to allow to avoid this type of situation of exceeding demand of one TSO that create extreme prices for another TSO. And so I think this measure should be considered by TSOs also, and in the analysis that we've made, actually, but I have not shown that here, there was some point on indeed the benefit it would have for Czechia and Slovakia. If each other would use it, it would basically benefit both of them, because it would avoid every time that one bring price incident to the others, basically.
Thank you very much, Gilles, for that one. We have some questions coming, but maybe I will spare them to the last 10 minutes for the question. Let's go with the already agreed question, because what is very interesting, and I told already that you presented one very important indicator, these price incidence at the range of 7,500. And we see the very low occurrence and even further reducing with the new amendments. And there was a question actually from a previous workshop, mainly from the region from Hungary as well, that what is the most important indicator what we have to have a look? Is it this very high price occurrences, or what do we have to look? Should we see as an indicator as the most important one that prices in both directions should come very close to the wholesale electricity prices? Is it the indicator which is more important, or shall we give high weight to the price spikes, which are not at the extreme level, but still they are occurring in the process, and we would expect that even this would be reduced further if we enlarge the platform. So who do you see it? What shall we do? Shall we look at rather the harmonization of prices, or rather on this volatility? What do you think? And anyone can start out, maybe even Mario, if you can give your view on that.
Actually, for me, this is quite tricky question. We are listening this quite often when we're talking about day-ahead platforms, intraday platforms, and also balancing. And there are discussions like there is a bad connotation in terms of higher prices or price peaks, and something like positive when it's going down. But is it really so? Because for me, when we are introducing this kind of liberalization also in balancing of the system, we are kind of pushing price caps higher, and from the next year also there will be a different methodology how to move price caps in balancing world. For me, these price development shall, and this is connected to platform performance. This should clearly, it works for me well when it's clearly showing adequacy or inadequacy of in the system in terms of available resources to balance the system, specifically in PICASSO about AFRR. So when prices are going higher because there is a demand to use this service or resource, this for me is a logical consequence, and it's not something bad. It's not about the low performance of the platform. This is simply a normal behavior. Because there is a scarcity resources, we are asking to activate them, and indeed in that case prices are going up. Indeed, we could say impact of available cross-zonal capacities is something we should really carefully look into because it has impact on the fragmentation and on the liquidity as such. So yes, there are inputs into the platform, something like cross-zonal capacities, which influencing negatively most of the times negatively the performance of the platform itself. But again, I mean, for me, price developments, if this development can be justified according to normal rules, there is no like market power abuse or something like that. For me, this is not an indication of bad performance of the platform. And technically speaking, at least today, platform works according to algorithms we agreed that this platform will work based on. So we agreed on certain methodologies, on certain rules and algorithms that are implemented in it. We could agree on different algorithms and methodologies if we willing to do so, and there is a common sense for that. So at the moment, platform works according to agreed rules, and it's showing price developments according to certain logic, which is a kind of business logic. So from my point of view, this works okay. We have set of indicators which we are monitoring, indeed, agreed set of KPIs which we are looking into, and this showing certain performance or fragmentation of the market or certain fails in terms of submission of data and so on. But in general, this central element, what we call platform here, works in my view fine. What can be better indeed is improve liquidity, and it is a kind of push also through this forum to connect for everyone else to join the platform, because these new first comers, I would call them, or these pioneers that started this platform, are facing inefficiencies because of this low liquidity, I would say. So, and also this is connected to my very first words, what Am says, that we are judging the prices and maybe some peaks, but this is, I would say, maybe premature, because we are still maybe in very early stage of integration. So most of these things could disappear once we are fully integrated. At least I have such feeling, because the similar thing happened in the day short-term markets, like day ahead intraday IDAs. So let's see how this will develop, but this is motivation for others to join.
Thank you very much, Mario. I think it's very true and I fully agree with you that, of course, these spikes are price signals for some additional partners. And let's see what will happen when we enlarge the platform. Maybe, Gilles, you can add your thought on this. And maybe I would put this extra question, which was asked by Szilárd Szekeres, is there any initiative to harmonize cross-border capacity allocation with balancing energy platform? Because Mario was raising this question as well, that of course cross-border capacity and available for balancing is quite an important element in the platform operation. So Gilles, please.
Yes, so on the first part, I quite agree with what Mario said, especially, I mean, when I basically started working on this and there was this extreme price that were observed, I think the question was not, is it good or is it bad? Does they represent something? And that's why basically I think all what has been done in the amendments that have been taken is seeing situations where we were thinking that these extreme prices were not meaningful. And so these two examples that we had was, okay, you had cases where the bid that was setting the price was not actually activated by the TSO local controller. In that situation, we said, okay, it doesn't make much sense that the price is high. And so that's why we've resolved that. But the target is not generally to affect price, because if price reflect the situation, I mean, it's fine, it's how it should be. It's more, these prices reflect something, and if they don't, then that's where that's when there is an issue basically. So that was for that question, and the second one was about cross-border capacity, harmonious cross-border capacity.
It was Szilárd Kenyeres who asked, so I just read it up. Is there any initiative to harmonize cross-border capacity allocation with balancing energy platforms? I don't know if you are
harmonized cross-border capacity allocation. So does that refer to balancing capacity markets and the fact that they will be integrated? Or if it's the case that will be the case, if not, all the cross-zonal capacity are computed in balancing, it's already following methodology that are already existing, that are coming from the intraday capacity calculation. And so I think it's already harmonized. I mean, it's already described in the methodology how it should be done.
Okay, so there is no additional initiatives there. Okay.
I mean, if it's about balancing capacity market, then there are initiatives going to there have cross-zonal capacity and have reservation of cross-zonal capacity for balancing, so that exists. But for that segment.
Okay, thank you. And maybe just to give the word to Szabolcs, because you are the regulator, and this question on that, okay, what is the good measure? What is the indicator? Is it the price level, how it goes, or is it rather the volatility which you are more concerned? So Szabolcs, any question to that? Or any additional thought on it? Because in a sense, just to give you my thinking on that, is that if you are a regulator and you are really care of, okay, what the end user price will look like, Probably if there are spikes or peaks of these levels, but at the end of the month, when you sum it up, it would reduce the cost burden on the consumers. At the end, I would be happy or not. So that's just a question for the regulator.
Yes, in order not to oversimplify the situation, but you're right. From a national perspective, the expectation towards new measures is usually to lower costs, and especially in our case, this is also true for the balancing platforms. For Hungary, the target indicator for a well-functioning platform would be to decrease prices, which means as you already showed in your forecasts, a convergence to them prices. This would both serve affordability for the consumers and competitiveness of our economy. And of course, we expect that the accession to the PICASSO platform from next year will definitely help us to get closer to these objectives.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Szabolcs. And maybe because there is an additional interesting question by Judith Krajcz here as well, that and it's an interesting question that the question comes like market participants might think how they can calculate, anticipate leftover cross-zonal capacity, especially with regard to day-ahead flow-based calculations. And for me, the question is, I might add or I might turn a bit the question that participants, I mean the parties who will provide the balancing energy, do they have to have a good capture of what can be the leftover for cross-zonal, or they just have to bid in as they would assume there will be available capacity? Do you see this as an important question? So do they really have to think of that what will happen to the capacity, or do they have sufficient information? So what is your opinion? Mario or Gilles, maybe first?
If I may react, I think that here in this, the classical market participant is a balancing service provider. So if someone who, in my view, would be interested in that, is the entity or entities that are providing specific service, in this case AFRR. It might be indeed interesting. And regarding flow-based, yes, they had is in flow-based, but what we shall look into is the remaining capacities after intraday allocation. So after XBIT and after IDAS, these leftovers are the capacities that are used by the balancing platforms, which also this process, how to use it, is also somehow under change or shall be changed in upcoming months when there is already a common capacity calculation module for balancing platforms, so for MARI and PICASSO, and it should be I would say higher version, should be used by more TSOs. So also the process how remaining capacities are then used after the intraday by the balancing platforms, by the MARI and PICASSO, is going to be I would say changed or improved in upcoming months. But so the question clearly to answer, what you should look into is the remaining NTCs or ATCs, if you want, after intraday, because intraday and still even today IDAS are operated not on the flow-based, but on the classical old-fashioned per border values.
Gilles, anything? Yeah, please go ahead.
But there are so many variables that I'm very curious whether you could, with some solid quality forecast, in which direction and which border will be utilized.
Yeah,
I mean, that's very, very challenging task.
Yeah, you know, we have the feeling as well, I mean, the modelers here as well, that with the flow-based, you have so much of an information available there, and then XBIT is there, and then at the end it would be very, very difficult to do real focus on that. What are the important elements here, and how should you model that? So it's really challenging for us as well. Gilles, any addition or any insight to this?
No, I agree that it's the ATC after intraday that are relevant to look for market participants. Obviously, the intraday is still ATC, even though now, I mean, the legal deadline for implementation of flow-based is already passed. So let's hope that we have flow-based in intraday as soon as possible, which would also allow market participants to better cover their position already in intraday, and so hopefully have also reduced potentially the demand in balancing afterwards, which would also have a positive impact.
And Gilles, as the word is at your side, and then you showed us that, okay, what were the recent amendments to the platform? Do you plan or do you foresee any additional ones in the near future which we should be aware of? As I mean, the newcomers as well, or do you have anything already planned?
No, I mean, no. I mean, we have taken in these amendments. They've been implemented already, I mean, in August last year. And so now we are analyzing the impact, which we see is somehow quite positive, but there is nothing planned, at least on regulatory side.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, no, also, there was these two amendments, the one that was made at central platform level was implemented, and also this possibility to use an elastic demand, which has been implemented at platform level. And then you still there was also some development that were required by by TSO to their local controllers. And at the moment, only the Belgian TSO have implemented it. I mean, it's a voluntary measure, but other TSO are still implementing it, like Austrian TSO was planning to do it, the French one and the Italian one also. So I think, I mean, it's important also first to implement and to finish implementing what we have decided before trying to go for other things and see first how it works with the amendments that we have recently made.
Thank you very much. Mario, do you agree with this as the newcomer to the club, that you don't have any new ideas to introduce as a change? You are happy with what is going on and you would like to see how it will be materialized?
I mean, indeed, we are heavily involved in these discussions, what could be improved. But what I think we didn't touch upon, and in my view is extremely important and sensitive for every single country joining PICASSO, because we are still on the level of discussing the price of balancing energy. But what is much more sensitive for society is the cost of imbalance. Which translates from the cost of regulation energy or balancing power, or we can say in this case balancing energy, which translates via national rules. Usually every single zone has its own rules, and it's also task for regulator and for entity that is responsible for local rules, how this cost of balancing energy will translate into cost of imbalances. Then indeed this entity is responsible for balancing groups and for the portfolio of end users who are at the end kind of paying the bills. We'll see through this chain the cost of increased balancing energy. So in my view, it's also important to talk about the local rules, how the cost of, in this case, PICASSO, because these prices are at the end translated into cost of imbalances. And this is something what will touch upon industry, households, or anybody else, end users. And there must be very carefully evaluated the way how this is translated, because it's not one-to-one. Usually there are some equations and coefficients to translate this and somehow also reflect the cost of day-ahead market, intraday market, in order to mitigate the arbitrage of the entities. So by other words, there are usually local mechanisms in order to prevent speculations between do I manage myself be in imbalance and let TSOs manage this via activation of regulation power, or I'm forced to rather go on the shorter markets and buy electricity to manage my position. So I think every country has its own slightly different way how it's done. And this must be very carefully taken when these new platforms are implemented, because cost of imbalances can jump significantly, and they are not usually equal to regulation power. It can be multiplied by something. And I think this is very also a sensitive discussion among regulated entities, TSO, regulator, government, and so on.
Thank you very much, Mario, for these insights. Very interesting one. Let me turn to one or two questions because I see there are already some additional questions arrived there. But one very interesting question was raised, actually was shown by Dominic. And I'm very curious about your, and actually Adrian's modeling result is confirming this. And I think it's quite a nice message for many of the countries in our region. The message was that if you have a look at the benefits of the countries, then small countries in a ratio, in a relative term, they are much better off. And then Dominic was giving this reasoning that the reason for that we would gain more than larger sized countries, that with the small countries having only small units in our merit order, we can join a very unified European order. So we have access for a lot of resources. Do you agree with this, Mario and Gilles, to this, that countries like Hungary and other smaller countries can have this expectation that relatively will be better off in this situation than in other countries?
If I can just simply react to this,
yeah.
It's already better that when you will join through two borders. This is already I would say big positive thing for you. Mm-hmm. What you are joining is already a solution which is sometime in operation. So in terms of stability of the central modules, systems, processes, also incorporation of proposals of Acer into it, this is already there. So I would say that you are joining something which is more advanced compared to the situation when you would join as a first TSO or second TSO in a row. So this is positive thing. But as Am says, for me, it's important also to be locally ready, because these inputs from central system into your local rules, procedures, equations will translate into something which might be different for different countries. So you must carefully consider this. You probably cannot continue with the solutions that you have in place now. You probably need to check the whole chain until end of this chain. What will happen if I will start feeding these equations and system with the new inputs in form of prices from PICASSO, the regulated, for example.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mario. Actually, that would have been the second question, that maybe what is more important. So that was what I thought, is that your experience shows that it's a much better situation to join the platform when you have 2 or 3 or even more connection available, because then you will really see that this limitation of bottlenecks will appear with less frequency. Gilles, anything to add to these 2 questions? So the size of the country and then the connection point, or you just agree with what was mentioned?
On the smaller country, I think that from the data that I've seen, Belgium was benefiting quite a lot from the connection, and that was coming from the fact that they had, they are small, but they also have a relatively limited AFR merit order, and so being able to access much longer merit order in the Netherlands and in Germany, it has benefited them quite a lot. mean, I think that was the case. So indeed, that there is a part indeed of truth in the fact that if you are small, but also if you have if you don't contract that much FR, then you also that's also at your advantage because you are access a much larger merit order. And yeah, so that's the for the part on the size of the country. And the second one was on
the size of the country, and the second one that the countries which have only one connection, they are not that advantaged in this.
Yeah. Obviously, it's better if you have the more borders you have, the better it is. That's clear. Obviously, you cannot have a reasoning that I only wait that all my neighbors are there to connect, because if that's the reasoning that everybody holds, then nobody connects, and that's not possible. I mean, at the end, to arrive at everybody connects, there is a need that people connect when they are ready.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And I would like to give the floor to Szabolcs as well now, because you had quite a lot of information from the previous question. That how do you see that your role in this part? Because I think the regulator has really, you are the one who should push the TSO as well into this direction to consider all these benefits and do the preparation well for this. So what is your takeaway from this Szabolcs, what we just talked about, and from the experience of the Slovakian colleagues? Szabolcs, please.
Yes, considering what challenges I foresee for the future in our case, and how can we prepare for them? I think firstly, we see that the challenge of predicting available cross-border capacities with regard to the flow-based day-ahead capacity calculation, and the challenge of having sufficient interconnection capacity available, that with special regard to the fact that intra-country congestion may also lead to being insufficient. And secondly, the implementation of elastic demand would be important in that regard.
Thank you very much, and I think we just wish you good luck in the coming year to help the TSO prepare for it. And I think what Mario was telling, it's a very nice insight already. So I think close collaboration with the colleagues there at SEPS would help a lot in that sense, and maybe the Slovakian regulator might help in that situation. And actually, we are at the end of the planned panel discussion, but we have still 10 minutes for the question. And I think there is one very interesting one which we did not cover yet. Terna, the Italian TSO was in an interesting situation, because what happened there, they were stepping in, but then they decided to go out for a while for the platform. And the question is that who do you see that after all these changes in the methodology, elastic demand, would they consider this as a more attractive platform and they would come in, or they would still rather wait for more countries to join in order to have more access to the other market as well? In that sense, of course, all the connection of Italy is quite interesting. So how do you see the Terna situation now? Maybe let's start with Gilles this time.
Yes, so maybe just to precise a bit the situation there. I mean, it's the regulator from Italy, so ARERA, that has sent a letter to Terna asking them to leave the platform. And basically, after we've discussed a lot with them during the amendments, and what they've decided after was that they allow Terna to reconnect if they implement an elastic demand. And also there are some graphs that I haven't shown here, but that show that for the Italian case, the implementation of elastic demand would basically cancel almost all the price incidents that they have had at the time. And it's because their price incidents were in very specific situation, because in Italy they didn't have extreme bids themselves, but it's when they had demand exceeding all the bids that they have available that they were activating extreme bids from Austria, and that's why they were having extreme prices. And so for their case, basically implementing elastic demand, saying I don't want to pay more than a certain price for the bids that I would import from Austria, basically would have prevented basically all their price incidents. So that's why REKK took the decision to say, okay, you can reconnect if elastic demand is implemented.
Thank you very much for this. Mario, you have any further information on that one or not?
Hard to comment on the TSO colleagues. Gilles explained as it was a request of NRA. As Am says, it was due to the prices. We see development but especially prices of imbalances in Italy dropped dramatically. And I think one of the reasons could be also that they did this big bang in one step. Maybe it could help if they would do this rollout in several steps and system can at least for a couple of months to learn and adjust, because if you do this big or many changes in one package, it could be kind of a shock for the system. But they were in this situation for 1 year, so they're observing almost 1 year development of the prices, and after that it was not like 1 week connection and then disconnection. It was one year almost. And decision was taken. Yeah, as Gilles mentioned, there could be a potential solution or mitigation of these price peaks and volatility they observed. And it could help. Indeed, Italy is a very specific country in general in terms of also geographical connection, their length, the main production sources and balancing sources. And so there is also a lot of gas used indeed. So marginal prices are relatively high. So in this regard, yeah, these local specificities also contributing significantly what is happening. So you may implement the same rules, but you may get completely different outcomes due to these local specificities.
Thank you very much. There was one more question by Judith Krajc from the NRA of Hungary. If you have observed anything special regarding prices for countries which are typically transit countries. In a sense, I would say, if I understand correctly the question, what you have mentioned before, that transit here would mean that you have more borders here. So in that sense, you are in a good situation because you have not only linking with one connection to the platform, but with many one. But anything which you would answer to this question, because in a sense, if I understand it correctly, it would mean that you are in a good situation, not in a special situation what you had in Slovakia before. Or anything to add to this question? And I see Judith is correcting or making a bit more detail on this. But those interconnections might also be blocked because of transit. Well, the more border you have, maybe the less probability in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if I can on that one, but that becomes very specific. What we have seen was the one that the difficulty was for the one that had indeed few of their borders connected, and that is, I mean, somehow, if you have few of your borders and you are a transit country, then it's a bit negative. To be a transit country, to really benefit from it, you need to have more borders in it. And this is a bit coming from, I mean, it's quite complex to see, but it's coming from the point at which you make your ATC extraction out of your flow-based domain, that if you are in a more central position, that could cause you more difficulty if you have few borders available, because you can have 0 ATC. While if you are more at the end, a country that is more at the corner of Europe, then usually you would still have ATCs that are available. So if you look at ATCs per border, usually for the one that when we computed the percentage of time you have 0 ATCs, actually the result for like Portugal, Spain were quite good, even though you would think they have only one border, but it was still quite good. So it's not as simple as looking at the position.
Okay. Thank you very much. And actually, I think we are just at the end of our time. So what I would like to say is that really a big thank for all the participants and the audience as well for the very, very good question. And maybe just to conclude my messages, and I will give maybe 1 minute to everyone to correct me, that the message is that what we see that probably Hungary will be in a very good situation next year to join the platform. Of course, you need a lot of preparation, informative-wise, and then prepare the participants as well to handle well the platform operation. But probably the message is that we would be even in a better situation than Slovakia was when you started and you managed well with this process. So I think the message is that let's try to go for this path, and let's hope that these benefits which we have seen and observed in the operation of the platform will not be reduced, but even further increase for the newcomers as well. Anything last sentence or last message for the Hungarian TSO and regulator for looking at? So please just be very sharp and short in that one, because I don't want to misuse the time of the participants. So please, let's go in this way. Gilles, Mario, and then Szabolcs.
No, maybe just to complement slightly my answer to the previous question, I would say that about this idea of if you are at the center or on the board, actually for Hungary, the result of the ATC that were available, if all their neighbors are there, were quite one of the best in Europe. It was like more than 99% of the case, there was non-zero. There was at least some ATC that were available on one borders when all their borders were there. So the result there on availability of cross-tunnel capacity for Hungary are quite positive. So I would say that the connection would be positive.
Thank you. Mario?
I want to just wish you, I would say, all the best and the fastest possible integration into PICASSO, because we could also benefit out of it. So we are at your disposal. If there are anything to consult, I think it's good to consult among us because we have in some aspects very similar situation, or we had the similar situation. So there are lessons to be shared maybe with you, and you can do this have even better performance when integrating.
Thank you very much, Mario. And then Szabolcs, the last comments.
Yes, thank you. I think we are listening and learning and trying to understand the situation as good as possible. And we also hope for the best, that it will bring the benefits needed from next year, and it will also help in the region to develop further in that direction, which we already monitored in other countries.
Then thank you very much for everyone for the participation. Just for last information, that the presentation will be available on our website, and really thank you very much again for your participation, your presentation, and your contribution as well. And the same for the audience as well, that very nice questions arrived. So thanks a lot for your active participation. See you on our next workshop. Thank you very much, and bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.